Welcome back to my movie narration, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Da Vinci Code. Now, the leading male role is Robert Langdon, or Tom Hanks, and the opening scene to the movie is when we see him giving a talk about religious symbology. A French police officer, he comes up to him and says, Jacques Sonnier, someone you know, has been killed. So on the right hand side you see one of the archbishops, I would say, if I'm not getting his rank and title wrong. And on the left hand side, a teacher who has been employed by the bishop. So he was implicated in the killing of Jacques Sonnier. So Jacques Sonnier was a member of this priory of Sion. He goes to a church and meets with a nun, and it's late at night, and he says to the nun, well, say a prayer and you can go. I don't want to take up any of your time. But then when the nun leaves, he starts hammering the floor and trying to dig to find a keystone. And then immediately the nun rings Jacques Sonnier, but of course Jacques Sonnier has been killed already by Silas and maybe some of his accomplices, and he doesn't answer the phone. And immediately Silas does realize that the nun is one of the priory, because she contacted Jacques Sonnier and he kills her. Robert Langdon doesn't really know what's going on. He just thinks because of the signs and symbols that were present there, the detective is just essentially just asking for his help to solve the mystery and the crime. Then a woman walks in. She's also a police officer, but she's in the scriptology and decoding unit of the police force, and she mentions Fibonacci code. Of course, Mr. Langdon, Robert, he picks that out of their conversation. He says, of course, these codes are written close to the body. They're something to do with the Fibonacci, and he pays more attention. And immediately Sophie then takes out a mobile phone and instructs Robert to dial a number, because apparently there's a very important message for him recorded at that number. And he's initially suspicious, but then he listens to it, and it's actually a recording of Sophie's voice saying, your life is in danger, please follow me. So then eventually Robert does believe her, and what they do, she says, check your pockets, and in the pockets there was a tracker. So what they do, they take a bar of soap, put the tracker on it, and then throw it down from the window onto some sort of a rubbish van. He does reveal to him that she is Jacques Sonnier's granddaughter. And they revisit the crime scene. Now, the whole code that Jacques Sonnier had left them, they revisit again, and apparently it was scrambled. So the message was scrambled, and they so because Robert has an expertise in these kind of things, he was able to decode it, and it says the Mona Lisa. Actually, through several steps of decoding, they find a key. It says Hawks 42. Realize that the police are back, and they take the key and they run. The police do see them, and she puts the car in reverse and backs up, like, 3 or 4 reverses 3 or 4 streets in one go at top speeds. But then they're just trying to debrief the whole events of that evening, of what happened, and how did they get here, and what the next step is. And she does emphasize on this, what's the next step. She was raised for a few years by her granddad, because her family got killed in a car crash. And he was very heavily into riddles and decoding and scripts and things, and He trained her this way as well, which is why she had landed a role in scriptology of the police unit. And they're both sort of confused about why they had to meet and what the key was. The whole movie is a decoding mission that these two were set on. They go to this address and they realize it's like a holding company, also deposit box for various customers. So they knock on the front door, they're let in, and they then the concierge or the receptionist sends them to a certain room. Then a guy shows up and says, yes, this is one of the oldest and most complicated accounts that we have. So the key was required, but also a 10-digit key, passcode, to be able to retrieve the item that was in store. Now, this is what was retrieved is a cryptex, so a little machine that had 5 dials, and each of the dials were the 26 alphabet of the English language. So she knew about this. She knew about cryptex because apparently when she was little, Jacques Saunier, her granddad, made her one of these. So he was really training her for this day. The police are there, and he says that your account comes with like a escape route or like a escape mechanism, and that is actually a van that he drives. They drive off, but then so they're going towards like a certain suburb of Paris and so on. But then the driver stops the van, opens the cargo hold, and points a gun at them and says, I've been waiting for 20 years and now you fugitives or murderers or in possession of this cryptex and give it back to me. And anyway, a fight breaks out between them. Robert and Sophie manage to drive the van off. This guy, Lee Gandalf, who is an enthusiast for the Holy Grail and this whole Priory of Sion, so he is a member. And they realize that his residence is not very far from there. And they ring the bell and they gain access to his residence and they come in. Now, Lee is quite hospitable. He's very nice to Sophie and he greets both of them. Now, Sophie hadn't heard too much about this. She thought that Holy Grail was a vessel or a cup. But then Lee explains more to say, no, actually it means childbearing or womb and so on and so forth. And she says that Mary Magdalene was the wife of Jesus Christ. At that time they called someone's wife the companion. Silas is on the mission. He's on the mission of eliminating all the Priory of Sion people and believers. Broken into Lee's residence, and now he's holding a gun up against all 3 of them. And then finally, the butler of Lee, so the person who's living at his home and is helping him, he hits Silas with something, and of course then they tie him up and so on. All 5 of them get on Lee's plane. They initially want to go to Switzerland because it doesn't have a treaty of extradition with France, but then they decide they have to actually go to the United Kingdom, and the reason is as follows. All 3 of them were talking about the cryptex. There was a box, and they managed to open the box, and beneath the lid of the box was a little message that you had to read it in a mirror, very reminiscent of the way Leonardo da Vinci wrote codes backwards in the mirror, so you could read them in the mirror. And it referred to a pope, and they were thinking of the Temple Church in London. So they go there. And while they're talking about different things and looking at the tombstones and stuff, Silas manages to free himself from the boot, and he runs and catches up with them and puts a knife to Sophie's throat, because of course he knows that Sophie is quite a important person and perhaps one of the masters of the Priory of Sion. And while this is happening, then the butler comes in with a gun, but he points it at Robert. So there's a bit of a plot twist here, because indeed not only is Silas a teacher, so teacher meaning followers of the mainstream, that's Bishop Aringrosa, who sends out people to do his job for him, such as Silas, so they're called teachers. But the butler of Lee is a teacher as well. So that was a plot. And the butler, while pointing a gun at Robert, also hits Lee. They managed to flee Temple Church, but they're still very worried about Lee, because of course he was not able to run away. And while they're running away, they find that Alexander Pope was the guy who buried Isaac Newton. So then they realize they need to go to Westminster Abbey, where Isaac Newton has been buried. And Silas is put in a safe house to take a rest, and the butler then comes to a certain park close to the Thames, and he is having a private conversation with someone, and tells him that your secret is always going to be safe with me. Now, this person who we don't initially see offers him some kind of a beverage, and the butler drinks it, and he, within a few seconds, dies. Finally, we see the identity of this killer, and he's who else could he be but Lee? It turns out he is a teacher as well. Robert and Sophie still think that they need to help Lee, and that he's been taken hostage by the butler and also Silas. But of course, we know that Robert and Sophie are gone to the Westminster Abbey, where Sir Isaac Newton has been buried, and they're looking for the last part of the puzzle. And while they're sort of still talking about the cryptex and what the code could be, Lee makes an appearance, and he takes his gun out to them. We're at the tomb of Sir Isaac Newton, and he was an enthusiast of the Priory as well, and what was so important in his life and career that sparked all his genius, and what was that main event that happened. And he turns around, so we don't see what he does for maybe 5 or 6 seconds, and then he turns around. Lee tells him to give the cryptex back to him, and he throws it against the floor, and it breaks. What was so important in the career of Isaac Newton, what triggered this whole thing of his scholarly activities on physics, it was the apple. It was the apple that fell from the tree that triggered this whole his whole knowledge and process of understanding physics at a very deeper level compared to what was known at his time. He was a true genius. And as they step into the church, they realize that, or Sophie gets some deja vu of previously being here with her family, so she remembers some things of herself and her family visiting this place. They realize a few things. First of all, that Sophie is indeed royalty, and she comes from the bloodline of the Priory, Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, and that her family were, of course, of the bloodline, and they were eliminated. So the whole accident was not really an accident; was staged by the opposition to eliminate them. The newspaper read that all 4 members of the family were killed, but actually Sophie did survive. However, something happened. So while they're having this revelation and discovery in the basement of the church, a man does discover them, and then he goes to bring other people into the church, and they lock the door behind them. Actually, it was revealed that these were the people of the Priory, and an elderly woman talks to Sophie says to her, "I'm your grandmother. It's so many years I haven't seen you, and I thought I lost you forever. We had to put you in the care of Jacques Sonnier so we could take care of you. We had to change your name, and now you've come back home. Welcome." Robert is in his hotel room. He opens an old map that he had of the Rose Line. So this Rose Line represented the Priory and Mary Magdalene and where she might be resting. And he realized that the final resting place was just a tomb in the Louvre. So that's where she was all along. So the story starts at the Louvre and it ends at the Louvre.